Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I'm so glad you're with us wherever you are. We're brought to you by Bunnan Chevrolet, our great friend, the legendary Leo Bunnan. If you haven't seen the interview with Leo Bunnan, you might want to check it out. This guy is a multi-generational family auto business and is just an amazing guy, tender-hearted, cares about people, puts his money where his mouth is. This guy is amazing. So Bunnan Chevrolet, we're so grateful for our friends there. And we're grateful for you. If you're watching us on TV here in Santa Barbara, California, if you're watching us all around the world on goodlifetelevision.org and the YouTube platform and the podcast platform, which has become really popular. I'm not a huge podcaster, but apparently a lot of people are. So we're so grateful that you're joining us there at Good Life Conversations is the name of it. And yeah, we love it. And we're talking about the good stuff. We're talking with great people, and there just has been an amazing group over the last few years that we've been able to talk to, and so I'm really excited about. We have another one today. This guy is amazing. Drew Wakefield is his name. If you're not in Santa Barbara, California, where we're sitting, then you may not know Drew. But if you're in Santa Barbara, California, you probably do, or you've been at an event that he's emceed or somewhere where he has a microphone in his hand. He is known as Mr. Santa Barbara around these parts. Welcome, sir.
Dean Wilson, Good Life TV, part of the Turner Foundation. It is a pleasure to be with you, and I almost feel like I need to get up and start running to Bunnan as your first sponsor.
There we go. We got to get that clip. That's good. What a city we live in. You know, I was thinking, one of the things about you is I looked this up this morning, your enthusiasm. The definition of the word enthusiasm is Drew Wakefield. No, it's intense and eager enjoyment, interest, or approval. I think enthusiasm is like kind of a lost art. And maybe it's I know it's kind of an inside job, but people are drawn and attracted to enthusiasm and enthusiastic people. And I think about this in leadership. I think people are only as enthusiastic as the leader. It goes downstream from, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Where does your enthusiasm come from?
You know, Dean Wilson, that's a great question, by the way. Go Westmont Warrior.
Thank you. Thank you.
Many years ago, a young man leaves Aberdeen, Scotland, and he comes to the United States of America through Ellis Island and comes to Santa Barbara. He turned out to be a pastor here in Santa Barbara, Church of the Open Bible, 329 West Cannon, Perdido Street. That was my grandfather. He had gone to LIFE Bible College back in the days, and I'll bring that up in just a second why that's so important with Hubert Mitchell and Crawford Jones and them. He pastors Church of the Open Bible, at which time everything that he did was out of love, compassion, to be a blessing to others, to make a difference, to walk through the beaches of the world, and when you turned around, you always saw footprints. And he saw more footprints because there's people that were following. People are never going to follow someone if you don't have something to give.
Right.
The reason why I have enthusiasm and where that comes in is I just know that each and every morning when I wake up, I ask the Lord God Almighty, the creator of heavens, the earth, the fullness thereof. Lord, I just want to be a blessing. Let me bless somebody. Let me make a difference. Let me encourage somebody. Let me speak into somebody's life. Let me make them better. Let me help them. Let me assist them. And if it's a community event, which I love, and sorry to my dear friend Wayne Casro, TKG Financial, Westmont Warrior. He knows my two best friends, yes, Wayne's up there, but a camera and a microphone, and when they're around, and I know where they are, I want to be able to use them. And you mentioned enthusiasm. Think about if you were going to have an event, and you just said, hey, I'm having an event. You didn't tell anybody what it was. It's going to be boring. It's going to be dull. There's not going to be any VIPs there. We're not going to do anything. Who would want to come?
Right.
But if you said, you know what, I have a barbecue. We're going to have X, Y, Z. It's going to be fun and exciting. All the main people are going to be there. People would want to join and come. And that's a lot when I go back to original church days. What a difference it made when God moved.
Yeah.
More people came. What a difference it made when people got healed.
Yeah.
More people came.
Yeah. Yeah.
My enthusiasm, I believe, comes in the bloodline of my grandfather.
I love that.
And I got to mention Viola May Cowie, my grandmother as well. I was raised by my grandparents.
You were.
Very, very important. I grew up as a PK. You won't know what that means.
Sure I do. I am
Dean,
one.
let me tell you a story that's so important to me. And once you asked me to come on your show, it's like, I've got to tell these couple
Please,
stories.
please.
Probably 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I mean, in those years. And I remember a lady in church when Dad, Brother Cowie, as he was well known throughout the entire city. Back in the original days, there's only a couple churches. Dad had one of them. I always refer to him as my father. Who wants to testify? Remember back in those days when you had services, who wants to testify? People would stand up and they would talk about the goodness, the greatness of God and the blessings. And Lee and Howard Merkwan, Lee would stand up and say, Brother Cowie, I want to testify tonight. And she would go to her purse and she would open up a little slip of paper and she held it. And when you knew that she did that, you know what the story was going to be. And if you were new, you didn't, but you would hear it. Brother Cowie, years ago, the doctors gave me 6 weeks to live. They didn't know exactly what it was, but they knew I had cancer and I was dead. And they said, you have 6 weeks, go home. Put your affairs in order. You have 6 weeks. Here's the paper. Here's the slip. I'm still here today.
Oh my God.
Because God Almighty healed me.
Wow.
So hearing about those stories is one. Living those stories, being a part of those stories in the people's lives, and seeing the miraculous miracles of God.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's very easy to get up every morning and say, Lord God,
Right.
what can I do for you to help you and to encourage others?
Yes.
So that's where a lot of that enthusiasm, and then that enthusiasm comes from charities and nonprofits that I really believe and I take heart, and a lot of your TV Santa Barbara people know because I've been on the microphone doing events with St. Vincent's Arcader, Tom McFadden, Charity Golf Tournament, Women's Breast Cancer, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I just enjoy trying to do good things for good people, and love raising money, tens of millions of dollars
That's so
over
great.
their lifetime.
That's so great. We need you over here. I think my grandfather and your grandfather may be hanging out. I don't know, but at this point they're somewhere on high. I think they might be hanging out because I'm sure they like each other.
Dad loved to sing. Back in a couple more stories, because really this is not about me, it's about the good life. Talking about making a difference is simply this. You oftentimes do not know who you're really talking to. Now you know the people, but what that difference is going to make in their life and how it's going to transpire and it's going to grow through their life for generations. Young man comes up from Ventura during the summer months, would go to daily vacation Bible school and see his grandmother and his aunt, Lois Kent, used to make clothes for my mother and my uncle in the church. My grandfather performed the ceremonies, for her burial, and everybody's buried, of course, at Santa Barbara Cemetery. Young man gives his life to the Lord, talks to Dad over and over in times for months and everything, and years and years. And so all of a sudden he says, you know what, Reverend Cowie, makes sense to me. I'm going to go to LIFE Bible College. Fantastic. So he goes down, and that was part of the Assemblies of God and everything back in there, right? And after graduating, he starts a church. And you go, well, okay, a lot of people start a church. Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, Chuck Smith.
Is that right?
The reason why I tell you that is because Calvary Chapel is gone around the world. People have been saved around the world. Where did things start? What's the blessing? Who are you talking to? Let's circle around. Many years ago, my mom, Esther Crossan, they're going through a difficult time in her life. She's driving, she's turning on the radio back in, I believe, at that time in Clarksburg, West Virginia. She listens to a pastor, because, you had AM back in the day. He listens and says, oh, wow, that's encouraging words. And says, yeah, voice kind of sounds familiar. And at the end, it's like, it's Chuck Smith. Like Chuck Smith that came to Daddy's church. Chuck Smith, where his grandmother made my clothes. Turned her life completely around again and said, you know what? Made all the difference in the world.
Unbelievable.
But for the grace of God, but for the blessings of God, you just never know. That's why it's important. We are in Dodger Stadium, right? Beautiful Dodger Stadium, 45, 50,000 people. I'm a youngster, we're going down. My dad talked to everybody. 2 stories are gonna go simultaneously. My dad talked to everybody. So as he's walking the aisle, at one time, like, Dad, we gotta go. Now I'm going to go talk to, I'm going to take him. So he goes down, and one of the ushers, after a few minutes, because Dad would always do this. And I know, so for your cameras, you're going to have to move, but he would always do this. Put his hands out, he'd grab people's hands, right? Dad's praying with an usher at Dodger Stadium. After listening to him, praying for him. Because God answers prayer, right? And if you don't pray, God can't answer no prayer, right? So another year goes by, we're back at Dodger Stadium, blah, 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 we're leaving. And as we're getting ready, he goes, oh, I got to go talk to my, and I kind of forgot the whole thing. He goes, no, I'm going to go talk to my buddy. So we start walking down, and he takes a look up. He goes, Reverend Cowie. By the way, here's what happened in my life. Blah, blah, blah. We're back in church, everything, marriage. This is great. Years and years and years pass. We're at Dodger Stadium. My dear friend Billy Guyvette, former general manager of the Colorado Rockies, gives me tickets. We have VIP. We're down the field. We're sitting back upstairs that night. Wayne Caswell, a couple of my friends. We're getting ready to leave. We're walking out of Dodger Stadium. One of my friends, Rob Gleason, says, what is Santa Barbara probation? Why do they have vans in the parking lot? Now, we waited to the very end to leave. This is how just these stories come together. We're walking out, and I'm like, and Wayne said, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Like Santa Barbara probation. Like, wait, like shouldn't those kids be in Groovy Juvie or at Los Prietos? Right. And I took a look, and I said, no, those are my kids. And Rob says, oh, come on, shut up, Drew. And Wayne says, oh my gosh, here we go. Because he knew. And I start walking over, and Rob says something. Wayne says, let him do what he does. As I walked over, these kids look at me, and they start yelling. They start, Mr. Wakefield. They start putting their hands together. Let me explain what that means. They start doing, I am a champion. I am incredible. I am great. And as they started to walk, one of the probation officers went to grab him, and the senior probation officer says, that's Drew Wakefield. Let them go. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
Dean, here's why. I brought a little something.
Good.
And I know we're going to kind of take some things over, but this is really important because I want to show you what I believe is in each and every one of not just you, but young people. This is why this is so important when I'm in the schools. My very precious, beautiful, large, D-flawless diamond is inside of Dean Wilson. And if we were to talk, but I already know it because this is what you're incredible. But when I'm on the schools, when I'm working with young people, I want to let them know that this is inside of you. However, when you first see a diamond, people walk over it because it's a rock. It's covered up. People walk by and say, oh, it's not valuable. It's not worth anything. A lot of times the same way they deal with young people. You're never going to amount to anything. You don't have any, you know what? Your father was a nobody. Your mother was a nobody. You don't have anybody in your family that was anybody. You are not that valuable. Me, I want to tell you, no, you are. However, it takes a trained eye, and I have that eye, to see that, no, that is a diamond. You pick up the rock, you get it to the right people, and if the diamond could ever talk, here's what the diamond would say, which most people do. That's why a lot of times people do not become D-flawless diamonds. You got to take it to the diamond cutter who starts to chop something off. If you're the diamond, you say, ouch, that hurts. Why are you doing that? Why are you cutting me? Then they look at something else and they go, oh, that's attitude for a youngster. You got to knock that attitude off. Yes. Oh, that's doubt. No. God's not giving us the spirit of timidity or doubt, right? Oh, you got to knock that off. That is, you don't want to study? No. And you start knocking that off. Well, who's the diamond cutters? Our teachers, our mentors, our coaches, right? Brother, play basketball at Westmont. Our coaches? Yeah. No, stand here, move here. This is how you have to do. Dribble this way, right? And then you find you really like it. You enjoy math. You enjoy science. Oh, you enjoy public speaking. Oh, you know what? Let's polish that up.
Yeah.
And you start to bring that out in people. But until you understand and you look at everybody that has this inside of them, a lot of people in our society today, they look at people, they judge them immediately, right, and they say, nah, not worth my time.
Right.
Dean Wilson, God is worth looking at when he looks at us the way he does. It is worth our time to find young people. You had a great pastor on just recently who was a youth minister for many years in Seattle, youth minister of the year throughout the entire world, right? You've got to chop off, and you've got to mentor, and you have to teach, but you have to bless and encourage. Where my enthusiasm comes from is I want to bring out that D flawless diamond. But Dean Wilson, here,
So
hold
good.
that for 1 second. Just for a second. So you see
Wow,
that?
this is heavy.
It's real. But you look at that and you say, you know what, that's inside me, Drew, but see, that doesn't take away from this.
Right.
Because this one is still inside your other workers and your mentors and your kids, right? And the mentees.
Right.
So just because it's not a zero-sum game, it is a, you have that, they have this, we can go around and we can pull that out of everybody. But
Yes.
just like with the diamond, real quick, and I always share this with also with the kids, if you have ever looked at a beautiful long stem rose, I know that Valentine's Day is coming up.
Right.
How do you find these beautiful long stem roses? The gardener, the landscaper's got to go out each year and cut down that rose bush and trim it up, and the rose bush could talk to you and say, no, ouch, what are you doing?
Right.
Don't do that. After a certain time, it starts to grow, and then what do they do for fertilizer? Why are you throwing that on me, right?
Yeah.
And then, but over time, the enthusiasm, the enjoyment is if I can make somebody better, if I can bless somebody, you know what? I've done my job for the day.
So good. Wow. That's a wrap. We could, no, I mean, Jerry, that's amazing. Affirmation, calling something out in somebody else. You're right, because we don't know we don't know the stories. I was saying this with my guest earlier. We don't know, we're walking around with people, we don't know anything that's going on in their life. We don't know their stories. And being sensitive, like when you say, Lord, help me bless somebody today, help me, give me the, I think we need to pay attention more. This hit me last year. Because there's this guy named Dallas Willard, and he's a Christian author. He passed away. He talks about, what does it mean to seek first the kingdom of God? He says, well, if you were seeking your car keys, what would you do? Look for it, right? Where would you look? Everywhere, right? So I've been thinking about that ever since I heard that, because I'm like, okay, and I think it lines up with what you're saying. When you walk out of your house, are you paying attention? Like, what if the person that crosses your path is the next Chuck Smith?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Or a hurting person, that your word of affirmation or encouragement or blessing or gift or whatever could send them on a total different trajectory, a whole different path. But I don't, sometimes I think we're not paying attention. Does that make sense to you?
100%. And let me give you share another story with you, which is so important. One of the things that I have really been trying to do in the last number of years is I've been looking for people who are down, defeated, miserable, and basically just a pain in the neck. They have it. No, they have a terrible attitude, and you see them, and oftentimes they're in customer service, because you have to think. Wait a minute. I'm going to take my glasses off. Empathy. Let me look through their glasses. Oftentimes, when you go through the checkout stand at the grocery store, or you're in a place, and people are just like, oh, they have things going on in their life, right? They're probably not bringing down $500,000 a year.
Right.
And oftentimes, if you can say, you know what, you're doing a great job, I really appreciate you. I see people in restaurants all the time, and even if they're not serving my table, I notice that you're really taking good care of them. I appreciate that. You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And the smile that comes on them, because it might be a Chuck Smith, and it might just be somebody that you'll never see again in life, who might not ever do anything spectacular, but might make their day, and now they go home and they make a difference in their kids' day. And now they start to see. We all talk about we want a better world, but how many people are speaking to others, encouraging them, blessing them? Years ago, I'd be on the platform with Dad, and I remember it roughly, again, I'm going back to about 4 or 5 years of age. Saturday, Dad says, come on, we're going down to the church. Okay, Dad, what are we doing? Come on. Get in the car, go down. We stand on the platform, and Dad says, okay, speak to the back wall. Now, you've heard me on the microphone, but you've also heard me sometimes no microphone. One time I had to announce one of the baseball teams at Caesar Soccer Stadium in the beautiful campus of UCSB, the home of the Gauchos for the Santa Barbara Foresters, and the microphone went out. So I just belted out for the whole stadium, and the coach was like, you got to be kidding me. But here's what he said: speak to the back wall. Make sure if you're going to speak, this is why it's so important. If you're going to speak, people need to hear you.
Right.
Number two, whatever you do, Drew, and you're going to be in front of cameras and microphones your whole life, I see it, it's ordained of God. Do not, under any circumstances, bore the people. Do not make it about you, make it about them. Help them, encourage them, whatever it might be. By the way, I'm going to mention a couple of names that probably have not been mentioned in 50, 60 years. Abby Tibbles used to clean Grandpa's church back when I was in grammar school. Ellen Evans, Sister Curry, Joe Smith, these people who are part, Sister Cogalitas, give that great story in a second. These are people that are part of the church that nobody will mention today. I will. Here's why. When you're on the platform, it's just like you're a superstar. You're on television, you're everywhere. You've got the biggest superstars in the world coming and sitting with you, the Magic Johnsons, the D. Gaines, and everybody else, the George Bushes. Now you got me, sorry. But here's the thing. You look great, you look incredible, you're doing an incredible job, but guess what? You need the people with doing the cameras.
Right.
You need the microphones, you need the editors, you need everybody that's putting everything together, that are behind the cameras. Dad says, Drew, remember, no matter how big the venue is, the people that parked the cars and the ushers that brought people in and the people that made the billfolds and the flyers and the people that were on their knees praying that this was going to be successful, they're the VIPs. You are just a conduit. You're just going to be up there. But remember who it is. Quick story: we're going to church on back in the old days. You had Friday morning prayer services, and that came out of the war years. That's how the Friday mornings came about, prayer services. My grandmother had been very, very ill. She had colon problems her whole entire life. She's at St. Francis Hospital. If God doesn't heal her, she's dying. I mean, she'd been back and forth and back and forth. My stepfather, Dr. John Cross, a board-certified radiologist, came up with my mom, said to my mom, you better prepare your mom's not going to live. Well, guess what that means? Doctor said it. Got to believe it. Right? Dad's praying, church is praying. We get in pick up Sister Cogalitas right there on Milpas Street, basically Milpas and Anapamu. Picked her up for every single service. Incredible Greek lady, great cook, by the way. And she gets in the car on Friday morning. She says, Brother Cowie, God told me last night Viola's going to be healed. Now, my dad's the pastor, says, well, we're praying for that. No, and she says in her broken English, God healed her. We go to church. Afterwards, we go up to St. Francis, up on Mitchell Trina. Dad walks in. Grandma's up eating. She hadn't eaten for probably 10 days. Unbelievable. Here's the story. She says, you know what, last night, I was just fed up with this. I'm not dealing with this anymore. These are people that, they spoke with God. God spoke to them.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up with.
I believe that.
She said, you know what, Lord? I'm not dealing with this anymore. Either take me home or give me more years like you did for King Hezekiah. 15 more years or more. I woke up, I'm hungry. She lived to like 94.
Oh my gosh.
People prayed back then and they believed. We pray today and we walk as if we're just ordering something. No, you pray and you believe, right?
Ask, seek, knock, over and over.
Exactly.
Right.
And when you go back, when you pray I tell people all the time, when I'm talking about, I'm praying for, I'm mentioning your name. I mention people's name on my radio show. I will mention your name and I'll pray for you. I tell people, if you don't want me to pray for you, tell me, because I'm going to pray for you, specifically mention you, and I'll text people and I'll do all that. People, I can't believe, no, it's not just right this second.
Yeah.
We need to make a difference in other people's lives. If we want a better world, it starts with us, right?
Yes.
It starts with us.
Yes.
If I'm not going to do it, who else will?
Right.
And then how can I get others to do it if I'm not doing it?
Right.
Right? Dean Wilson, Good Life TV, Turner Foundation, your TV show goes around the world. Now, you might say you're not a big podcaster. Your show goes around the world. And the VIPs that you have, and then when you bring on the pastor, and then when you bring on Sheriff Bill Brown talking about his mother giving her life to Christ, at the Billy Graham Crusade and that whole story, unbelievable. Those stories are going around the world, and people are being encouraged by what you are now producing and putting out and saying, you know what, if it can happen for them, it can happen for me.
Yes.
You've got to be able to see others successful to believe. When I speak with young people, your skin color, nationality, eye color, hair color does not make a difference. It just doesn't. What makes a difference in this world, in your life, is what you do with the 24, remember I said the hands, 24 hours a day that you have. You can Google, you can read, you can study, you can learn. You can, but it's up to you if you will. And if you can read, you can be anything you want in this world. But you have to decide if that's what you want to do. Many years ago, I teach that all the time, and so I want all the kids, when they wash their hands, look down your hands. Your life is in your hands. Not my life, your decisions. Walking through Ralph's, young lady, one of the aisles, standing with, I thought was her father, says, oh, you're Mr. Wakefield, you're Mr. Wakefield. It's documented, it's on one of the videos. I said, there I am. You came and spoke to us and me in my school. Great, my one question was, okay, was I any good? You were great, my line's great, incredible, and amazing. 3 words you want to be. You were great, you were incredible, and you were amazing. Okay, thank you for that. Why and what as she starts to put her hands together, I had tears in my eyes because I knew what she was going to say. You taught me that my life was in my hands. And I said, no, honey, you're exactly right, but what have you done? She says, I turned my life around. I got rid of those friends that you said, get away from people they're not going to follow and be where my destiny is going to be. I'm now back at Santa Barbara High School, home of the Dons. Go Dons, once a Don, always a Don. I'm an A student with a couple of Bs. I thought we were father. You got to be proud of yourself. Sir, we all know who you are. We've never met you. This is my youngest sister. She was getting in with the gangs. She was at La Cuesta. I said, no, I did not. She turned her life around. She was the one that made the difference. So with everybody watching Good Life TV,
Yeah. There it is.
they should know, when you wash your hands, look down. What's in your hands is your life and what you choose to do. Because let me tell you, if you open up a book, the letters in the book does not change based on your eye color.
Yeah.
The letters in the book does not change based on your skin color, nationality. If you're on this side of State Street, that side, 101 or whatever. What matters is we open the book and read. And I tell teachers all the time, and then they grimace until they know my story. I say, every book in the library right now is completely worthless. And they cringe. Oh my gosh, Drew, what are you saying? I said, no, they are. If it's in the library on the shelf, it's worthless. You got to pull it off the shelf and you got to open it up. And that's what you have to do with people sometimes. Sometimes
Yes.
pull them off the shelf, pull them
Yes.
out of their comfort zone, and get them out doing things. It bless them and encourage them. And yes, sometimes you have to mentor them. You have to teach them and help them. And yes, sometimes, like the diamond, you have to chisel a few things off. But if they're pliable, if they want to be mentored, right? I know your life story. I heard it when we had the prayer breakfast. Is incredible, right? God does not forsake us. And here's the other thing. No matter what happens in life, just know there's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people that want to knock you down, want you to be unsuccessful. And here's the easy way. When Joseph was sold into slavery, he wasn't sold in by his enemies. He was sold in by his brothers. Right? So what happens in the world when I teach and talk to kids? You can still be ultra successful, but you just have to realize, be around those that want to raise you up, bless you, and encourage you. And for those that want to knock you down, for those that want to root against you, don't listen to it. When I pray in the morning, I want to listen to what God has to say. I don't just need to know what somebody on, on some of these radio shows or TV shows have to say, right? The world's against me. No, it's not. The economy, you know what? God is so good. God is just
God's
so
bigger.
awesome, right?
God's bigger.
I'm sorry, I'm taking over your show,
That's
my
it.
friend.
No, we're out of time, but it's like amazing. You need to speak more. Good grief. I mean, that's amazing.
Just spoke for half an hour.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. I don't know. He's got a radio show. I've been on it. It is the greatest hour in radio. 1290 This is News Press Radio. How do they find that online? A lot of people.
KZSB AM. Online would be AM 1290 KZSB.com, or we're also up on a lot of the podcast stations. They put it up, and so it's
so
on all that.
so find it on AM. Now I'm going to forget.
AM 1290, FM 96.9.
emcee.com, because you can stream it anywhere in the world, so wherever you're watching this from. But if you're in Santa Barbara, for sure, 12:90 a.m. on Friday afternoons. It's at noon, right?
Yes.
Noon on Fridays. It's a fantastic show. And Drew is all, you know, the Turner Foundation, we try to, our tagline is lift people up. And that's what we're trying to do through however we can. This guy lifts people up and lifts nonprofits up, lifts people. And you've heard a little bit about it today. I'm honored to know you. I really am. And so thanks for what you do.
God bless you, brother.
Mr. Santa Barbara, everybody. Where do we go from there? I don't even know. Drew Wakefield, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.